Alright. Should be streaming on YouTube. I don't expect anyone to watch this live. It's not really supposed to be live. Like, it's not, like, that's not the benefit of it. I want this to be, like, a pre-recorded thing. For the most part, like, you know, we upload the video. But yeah, we're streaming. Anything else you want to say before we start the official recording?
No, I'm good.
Alright, cool.
Let me finish my Skittle.
Yeah, let's finish the Skittle real quick. Okay. Oh, fuck. I don't have a... Whoops. I don't have a local recording file up on this. Alright, I must... Alright, I think we're good. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, this is the 6th installment of the Speed Dogs, and this is going to be switching things up a little bit. So first of all, Brooke and I are collectively in one location.
Hi.
So yes, we are using one microphone. Hopefully there's no major issues. If there's any volume issues, I do have the chat open. I'm not sure if anyone's in there, but you know, if there is a volume issue, let us know. So we're using one mic. We have a little bit of a different setup, and we've also got a few voice calls lined up for this episode, so we're not going to be going over much news as far as political news goes for this episode, because honestly I haven't been really keeping up too much, but there has been a pretty breaking scoop that's not political that it's been, you know, it's something worth talking about on my podcast because it has something to do with me. So and yeah, so we're basically going to run right into that. So we have 2 guests with us to start us off, so if y'all want to introduce yourselves.
Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Sage.
Alright, good. Good introductions. Good introductions. Alright, so we're going to be talking about StreamMe and what happened with StreamMe. So, for all of y'all, is what I'm trying to say, that don't know, I used to stream on StreamMe. I used to, which I guess I don't anymore, the website doesn't exist. From about February of 2017 until like now, because the website just doesn't exist. It just poofed off of the planet. So we're gonna try to get to the bottom of why exactly that happens. And so Sage and Zach, y'all have been kind of on the ground here doing the research for us. So, yeah, tell us what you found.
Yeah, so I first learned about StreamMe shutting down, I think, around Monday afternoons when it happened, right?
I think so.
Around Monday morning or something.
Yeah, I remember waking up and seeing it's all fucked up, and I was like, oh, okay.
And immediately I started looking for answers. I thought it was very interesting because I used to stream there, and we all used to stream there, and so it was kind of a shock without any information or news. And StreamMe, I guess their staff or their team have been really quiet about it, especially on social media.
So no announcement, right?
Yeah, and so it was really weird because they, if you go to their site at 403s, right, and
yeah, it doesn't work.
If you go to their Twitter, they were just a few days before promoting some stuff for their website, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very odd. And over the whole week, there's been a lot of weird rumors. I think Zach was talking about somewhere, scuff.com. Somebody had said that Ice Poseidon, who's behind that project, just went ahead and bought StreamMe. There are some of these other streamers. I think the one guy is called Ralph or something, was showing people that there was a dox that took place. And the dox was the owner's information. And not to go into too much graphic detail, if you don't know about what was doxed, they had found pictures of his family and started doing something called tributing, which is pretty gross. And so there was the alleged, group of people.
Is it like Tribute to the Doomed, the Yu-Gi-Oh card?
No.
No.
Okay.
Do you think Tribute of the Doomed is familiar with this?
Yeah, is it similar enough? Like, could you get a kind of a similarities at all?
No.
No,
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right,
It's really gross.
go on.
But yeah. So these folks out here have been kind of propagating a bunch of rumors, and the interesting thing about it is that some of these streamers have said that, oh well, the the staff had given them this information directly and said a few things, which kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. But me and Zach thought something was up, and so we decided that since the Stream.me staff weren't actively engaged with their community that they just dropped and stuff, that we would also look into a few things, and we have our own theory, and it's more plausible. So we can get into that. So I sent you some links, and in some of those links you can see some of the evidence there.
So I've got this case file open, and that's like gonna be like the main thing we're gonna be looking at as far as the visual content, I think.
Yeah, and we can lead to that. For the folks that are here watching, they're probably not familiar with the history of StreamMe and the people that are running it. And if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like a small-time service, just like what Twitch does, or what we're doing here on YouTube right now. But they had a few cool features, like I think some of the technology that they were using made it to where it was almost real time. There was little delay to no buffer. You could do different things like multi-stream within their in their chat and things like that. So it was really unique. And
that's a good platform tech-wise.
Yeah, and that's important to understand when it comes to this case. But they also, these owners, their names are, and this is public knowledge, you can find this stuff, but the main guys we'll talk about is Sean Baudet and Ross Perkins. And these guys have led a pretty interesting life when it comes to their business dealings. If you go look at their public profiles, they really don't go into much detail or paint a picture about who they really are, I think. Sean Baudet is a real estate guy who works with a lot of commercial entities, and then the Ross Perkins fellow, if you look at his LinkedIn, he's like, his newest business is making video games for children. It's pretty innocent stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely sounds very good.
Yeah, so if Zach wants to take over and explain the next part, why it's important to paint this picture of who they are, we can get into that, and then we can hop into some of the terrible things that I think that they're into.
So, basically, who StreamMe is. Before being StreamMe is important because it gives you kind of an idea of how small the website is compared to some of their other stuff. It backs up the point that if the owner were to shut down the website over being doxxed, this isn't the only website he would shut down. They would shut down something a lot larger because they are associated with a lot of things that are a little bit more in the limelight than StreamMe, and these are things that you can find, publicly through the docs. So if these people are going after them, they're gonna go after them through their other sites too. It doesn't really make sense to shut down StreamMe and not their other sites. So,
yeah, the people that own StreamMe own a fuckload.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it started with, what is it called? Crocodile something? I don't remember. I gotta pull it up.
Flying Crocodile, I think.
Flying Crocodile.
FCI is the abbreviation.
That seems to be where it starts. Now, there might be stuff before this, but this is, late 90s, early 2000s. They started to Ross started to kind of get into pornography and worked with someone on that project. And I believe that's was it Flying Croc or StreamMate that started with the technology? I think they just went after StreamMate in the court case, right?
So StreamMate?
Streammates. So there's if you look in the docket, they talk about it, and what's really important to understand is they have a history of having their hands on a lot of cookie jars, and they've got a ton of businesses. So these guys have went out and created a bunch of different entities. Like, for instance, the Flying Crocodile one is their like streaming service. Basically what these guys do, and they've gotten into, is that they run this worldwide live streaming and content distribution operation. Okay, and that includes a lot of stuff. That includes like their development for their technology, their marketing, which we'll get into in a second. They do affiliate site relations, which is another important thing that we will talk about later. And with that they do things like webcam model recruiting, and that's some shady practices that they've been caught with that too. But and their companies all share like this big common ownership, which is why in that lawsuit they're all reined in on one thing. And they do a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, there's one, they made Riser Apps, which is a company that they've built like apps for phones that can take you to their websites and stuff. They have a tech group that went out and specifically produced malware, adware, spyware, a bunch of really nasty programs and stuff to help. Okay. Yeah, to help out with that. And there's some lawsuits about that too.
Ooh,
so
okay.
These guys have a lot of businesses, and they've got a lot of websites that just deal in nothing but pornographic stuff. So very interesting how they've
certainly.
Certainly
Extraordinarily interesting, I will say.
Porn and Nazis.
Nothing like really that bad, per se, but very interesting. You can definitely kind of see where they get their vibe going when you kind of throw in your personal anecdotal experience with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start with something Zach found. Zach found something about them suing another business over. I thought it was an Onion article, honestly, but it's so dumb that it's true. They were suing another business for cleaning up their malware, the malware and the adware that they were producing, which I thought was kind of weird. I think I sent you the link. It's the Seattle EPI one. Zach, you want to talk about that one?
I actually don't even, in this scheme of things, that was the last thing that I even considered being important. I can barely even remember it. And it really was, like, the way that it reads, the way the article reads, it sounds like it's fake. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
It's from a local newsprint over in Seattle, which is where some of their operations are based out of. But it's these guys are the folks that are involved. So I think from what I remember is when Zach and I were researching this, he presented it to me and was like, "Hey, what is this? This is really funny." And we both read it, and it turns out that, like I had said, one of the website or one of the companies that these guys run produces malware and spyware and such to get people to come into their pornography websites, right? And so I'm sure. If you've ever went to like a website like a Juarez site or any of these sex camming websites and stuff, there'll be like an ad that'll pop up.
Naughty websites.
Very naughty websites.
I'm sure that everyone in this audience has been to a naughty website at some point in time.
And you get naughty ads that pop up, right? And so...
well, I don't know about that. I'm not admitting anything here. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to provide some comedic relief here.
Well, these guys are responsible for probably that time that people were, discovering sex camming, and then a really loud ad popped up in the background that had, like, come to this website, and...
Come to this website.
Spelled C-U-M.
Yeah, C-U-M. Stop.
And you've got all that really annoying malware and spyware stuff that gets into your computer, and they're responsible for it. Well, the long story short here is that they were suing a internet optimization firm that made a like a program that cleaned out malware, and they were suing them based on losing profit because no one was going to click on the naughty ads. So, like I said, it's kind of like it's really odd.
Really hilarious. That's really hilarious.
I mean, we can all agree, right, that nobody here likes pop-up ads. Nobody likes.
No, I love pop-up ads.
Malware ads.
I like because it's a great surprise. You're scrolling through, and then you just get an epic surprise.
It's like, to me, when I read it, it was like an Onion article because it's like the bad guys are trying to sue the good guys for cleaning up all their mess.
And I'm assuming they lost, correct?
I didn't get that far, and I honestly don't remember. I didn't research that part. What I was looking up was, after this, I was looking up stuff like to look for like lawsuit stuff, right? And so to find this lawsuit, we stumbled into the other one that we think is kind of pertinent to maybe why they got shut down. Again, it's all speculation. We didn't see Stream Me specifically cited in there, but there's evidence to support, and I've not paid the money to go pull up the dockets or anything, but there's like, since what was that ad is 2014, I think, is this lawsuit. Let me pull it up.
This lawsuit, the adware one, is 2004.
No, the major one, the one where they roped in all their companies and they're suing them for.
Which one is that?
Theft of technology. It's the Insight. It was filed in August of 2014. So since then, there's been like 4 to 5 years of nothing but updates on the legal website that I found that on.
Okay.
And so some of them that I did get to pull up for free because they were short and available, I guess, to the public or whatever. But they were just back and forth discussions about discovery. Basically, the plaintiff that's suing the Stream Me guys wants to keep finding all of their websites and maybe where they've applied their stolen technology. And,
okay.
If you read the lawsuit, it talks about that there's this company. They work. They're called WAG, I believe. They're big on streaming and helping radio stations get their stuff out there.
Okay.
On the internet, and their technology, they paid for a man to do it, to create this technology, and they own the patents. And so if you go through it and you keep reading, you'll see things like, for instance, descriptions of Sean Baudet and Perkins and the businesses that they run, which is all of this pornographic stuff. They own like a huge amount of it. In fact, I think it's even cited that they own the biggest network of sex cam websites and technology in the world.
Okay.
And then they end up going into detail of what the technology does. And so something that Zach and I found that was really hilarious is that Perkins, the guy who's like the co-owner or whatever of Stream.me, brags in his LinkedIn profile about what's so good about Stream Me. And if you go to the Google website for patents and you just read the patents, it's verbatim almost what he's bragging about on his LinkedIn profile. So it's pretty interesting to see that that's kind of maybe a correlation.
So like basically he's trying to like take things that aren't really his and then like say like, hey, look at me, look at what I have.
Yeah, that's what it seems like if you read his LinkedIn page. But I think it's really curious that like all the things that I experienced when I was streaming on Stream.me, like the low latency and the zero buffering kind of thing, like it was always really
really fast and really good.
Really fast. Mm-hmm. That was like the 4 patents that that they're arguing over.
So like all the good parts of the website had nothing to do with them?
Yeah, I mean that's what their alleged lawsuit is over.
It hasn't been finished. They haven't finished it. It's currently, the last activity on it was January 7th.
Yeah, we saw a decision of something of some sort. Again, a lot of this, whenever legal things happen, you've got a plaintiff who wants to go and accuse the defended party about something and say, hey, you stole this. Well, then they get to make a document and they come back in whatever court arrangement and refute that or accept that some of the things that they're being accused about is the truth. But you should probably, leave it at that. And what's been going back and forth now is that the plaintiff goes, well, in discovery, we want to find more. In discovery, we think we'll find out that you actually did steal some shit from us, and that this is what we need to point out. This website here, you own 500 of them plus, it says in this lawsuit. We would like to go to this website and look into depth of the technology that you apply whenever you say you streamed this girl doing this or this boy doing that or whatever, on the naughty website. That could be technology that they stole to help them with that stuff. So that's what most of the back and forth has been about for the past 4 years, is them trying to let them in discovery go to this website and see the technology that they stole. And that's where Zach and I are at on our theory, is that maybe... So
while this basically was all going on, they just kind of made another website, StreamMe, that did the same thing?
Well, if you look at the timing too, it's kind of interesting. So this lawsuit started at the end of 2014, kind of, right? Mm-hmm. And if you look at any of the past business ventures, when it came to, let's say, their flagship website, which was Steemit, it was not a very good website. Zach pulled up some information about them in the Better Business Bureau, where they were scamming people.
Really?
Yeah, they were using the technology. So two of the patents are these buffering systems, and the other two are delivery systems. And they used one of the buffering systems. So they would set this up in this way where they would have a girl or a boy on camera, and they are, doing things live for a chat, and you would pay with your credit card. They didn't use like a third party. They had you pay straight up with your credit card for, 5-10 minutes, depending upon what you wanted. So you'd go ahead and you pay for 10 minutes with the person that you want to see diddle themselves or whatever the fuck. And during this, all of a sudden, the video starts buffering, and you can't see anything. And so you get 10 minutes of staring at like a circle, going around your screen, and that's it. And they did that so they could cover up for the fact that they were also using old footage. They were using footage of girls that had left the industry years later, years before these videos were played.
Yeah.
And they were, what was the other thing? They were doing that, and they were using footage from other websites that they didn't own too, I think.
Yes.
Now, I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but I believe they were using footage from other sites. But then again, they own, hundreds of sites.
In the lawsuit, their plaintiff says that they own in excess of 500 plus websites. They even go into detail talking about what some of the names of the websites are, which are pretty interesting. A lot of them are probably portals that go back, again, towards maybe their flagship website or something, but I can name a few if it's okay. I know this...
Go for it.
Some of them are pretty vulgar. So I copied a few of my favorite ones. So one of them is called spankwirecams.com. Another website they own is called xhamsters.com. I don't know if you... I don't know if you can do that with hamsters and it'd be legal, but maybe that's not what that means. Fuckcams.com.
Fuckcams.
Straight up fuckcams.com. Pornhub Live. RedTube Live. So you can see they're trying to maybe cash in on the not so savvy pornography connoisseur who goes to straight up RedTube. Maybe he told his buddy, and his buddy's like, I'm going to check out RedTube, and so he gets suckered into going to one of their websites.
Check out
RedTubeLive.com, right? Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's just to name a few, but they've got hundreds of these, and they've got, according to the lawsuit, tens of thousands of performers and the largest enterprise of its type in the world. End quotes. Why that's pertinent, I think, is I mean, again, if you're going to stream and you're going to do that and you're comfortable with your body and your partner and people and all that stuff, I don't care. If you've got it, flaunt it, that's fine. There's a business for it, and I think it's great. But some of the other things that we read kind of were a little weird. Mm-hmm. Remember when I mentioned earlier in the stream that they have recruiting services?
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that's in the lawsuit and things that you can research by going to Twitter and looking this stuff up just in a Google search. There's a agency in New Jersey. I can't remember the name of it. I should have probably written it down, but I think it's in the lawsuit. So there's an agency in New Jersey that goes to the local universities and sets up like, I guess for a lack of better words, I guess just like an intern table or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
In my business, where we look for interns for summer jobs and things like that to help us around where I work at, we go and we get like a table or a booth or something out, and there's these big job fairs. Well, these recruiting agencies just straight up put a table out, and they try to recruit people to perform, sex acts and stuff on campus. And I mean, like I said, all up to you if you want to do that, but that's just an example of how aggressive they get. Now, another thing that... Go ahead.
So let me just interject real quick. So essentially, StreamMe was one website under the same umbrella of a lot of other people, of this porn mega empire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. So the people that paid my money out, like the checks I cashed, were like the same people that like pay like thousands of like porn stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Alright, go on.
Well, I was just going to... we're going into bad territory here, I guess. I don't really have a point or any skin in this part of the game. I just thought it was a fun theory. I don't know so much. It's maybe not the right term. But I think that also they could have been shut down because of the legal stuff this way, where they stole technology, or they could be in trouble for the nature of their business, which could be anything around human trafficking or sex trafficking. And I'll explain my reason why that might not be so good. Excuse me. So, yeah, in a lot of the stuff you research about some of their recruiting services and their footprint. They have they called it in the lawsuit wholesale signups and recruitment agencies. And so these are not like your website that goes around and collects people who just say, hey, I'd like to sign up to stream on your website. This is a legit like boots on the ground operation. Mm-hmm. Like I mentioned, the one in New Jersey. And so they have these in Eastern Europe, the former Soviet states, it said, Latin America, and Asia. And you can just go to CNN or any of these other news websites, and they'll report the straight-up facts of sex trafficking in the 21st century. A lot of these places will go just unmoderated, and I think that correlates to the way they also moderated Stream.me. Where there would be people, I think, would come into your chat and harass you and things like that. And the moderation staff just kind of had a hands-off kind of policy. One time,
I was having like 100 people. This is when like the alt-right first showed up, and I like was taking a break, and then I like started streaming again. Mm-hmm. And so I had like 100 people like say like kill the tranny over and over again. And then like I was just laughing at it because I was like whatever. And so then community fucking rep came in and was like, if you don't moderate your chat room, we're going to remove you from the contest for spam.
Oh my god.
So like while it's a wall of like swastikas, like kill yourself, gas the trannies, right? The admin of the website is like, if you don't mod your chat, like go fuck yourself.
Well, that brings it into this point that I'm trying to make, is that we've experienced the way that they've moderated their website. So imagine that kind of treatment to literal hundreds of these campsites across the world.
Right, they have a rules list, but like you can report people for the things on the rules list and nothing will happen.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
False flag.
Yeah,
you can false flag people,
if you will.
Well, one of the things that I saw in a CNN article, it was reporting that was done in a case in Asia or something, a smaller Asian community, where these young girls were being abducted off the streets, and they were drugged and put in front of these cam websites. And so people would come watch them. And normally I would think, well, wouldn't you just report something like that? and heaven forbid that people get away with stuff like that, but that seems to have been a common thing with some of these websites in the report that I read. And so not alleging that these guys are directly responsible for sex trafficking. However, there is a law called Sesta Fosta that was passed a few years back, and the only reason why I know so much about it is because as an artist, it smacked the crap out of my community. There was a big issue once upon a time with human trafficking on a website that was like Craigslist, and not to get too much into detail with it, they had to create this law that basically broke the protection of site owners when it came to the moderation of their websites. So let's say right now, let's pretend that like we go back to that moment where people were harassing you and they came in and said you need to moderate your chat. That's literally what the government did to some of these websites. Before, it used to be the other way around. Before, it was just like, look, I just provide you a service, and if you just have people who come on here and they're really rude or they say really mean or hateful things, we're not liable for that. We just provide the service. So it got flipped around. Now, if you have people who show up on your website and they're doing things like, for instance, exploiting young women and stuff who get abducted and drugged and sexually assaulted on a live cam for people to pay money for, they're now held liable for that. And that was a newer development that happened last year. And so how that tied into the art community is like, I'm sure you heard about what happened to Tumblr, right? Where there was a lot of bad things going on there, and they got held responsible for it.
I think so, yeah.
They don't really moderate websites very well. And so that's also another example as to why I think they could be in trouble for that. StreamMe just doesn't do a really good job of moderating anything. They ended up shutting down a big website like Tumblr almost because they just had like a few people posting child pornography or something, right?
Yeah.
And so they tried to filter out the website, and it killed all of the art on the website because the filter was picking up artistic just like study of the human figure, fan art.
I love
things
study
like
of
that.
the human figure.
Study of the human figure. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, if you read some of the way that they policed it, they had some really odd filter things like presented frontal nipples or something. Yeah, I was like, I don't understand what that means, but okay.
Yeah, but so it seems like basically StreamMe going down is a lot more complicated than a lot of people are claiming it may be. Is that essentially what we're kind of getting onto?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But it's certainly not. It's certainly not the reasons that people are saying.
So it's certainly not like.
There's no way that it has to do with the docs. First of all, the docs, all of their information is public. We found it just by Googling it.
Yeah, you can like Google StreamMe CEO
and the second reason is if it had something to do with the owner's family being harassed, they wouldn't just shut down StreamMe. StreamMe is a dot on the map.
Oh yeah.
StreamMe doesn't mean anything to these people. It's not important to them. They have more viewers on Steemit, which is still up. Don't go there because malware. But
yeah, don't go there.
Another thing is like there's like a lot of people work for StreamMe, right? What's going on with them? Does anyone know?
Absolutely
transferred into the porn industry.
Yeah.
Somebody said on Twitter today that that they were supposed to have a meeting last night. I don't know if that's true because that's still in Ralph's theory, and I'm sorry, but I think Ralph's full of it.
We can safely ignore anything Ralph Retort has ever said or done anywhere at all. That can just be safely just ignored.
He's either making it up or someone lied to him. But if they did have a meeting, somebody had said that like a bunch of the people that had worked there had left.
So you're saying you would read something at face value without like putting any thought into it?
Oh
that's what I do all the time. As a podcast host, that's what I'm doing right now.
Right,
you think we thought about this at all? No, I'm just having someone else do content for me. This is awesome.
Let me say this. I'll take off the gloves for this part because I think that it's just kind of asinine. First of all, I hate it when people go around and they spread fake information like
fake news.
Fake news, yes.
Oof.
So the idea of a dox that, and I don't know if I can say it in your stream. It's up to you. But what a tribute is, it has to do with something that's pretty vulgar, right? like pornography stuff kind of.
You can be as vulgar as you want as long as you don't break any
terms
rules.
of service. Okay. So basically, what a tribute is they take a picture of another person, and they masturbate on it, and then they take a picture
on the
of it
picture
onto the picture.
So like, do they like curl the picture around their penis?
No, they ejaculate onto it.
They catch the ejaculate onto the photo, and then they take a picture of it.
Wait a second. So you're
Come on
saying,
the photo.
so wait a second. So I'm not sure if this is good news. Maybe Brooke would want to leave after hearing this. But back in the day, when I was 18, I think I had a copy of Mega Man X6. Now you might know that's one of my favorite games, and I may or may not have. I'm not admitting to anything, but the thought crossed my mind, and it may have occurred. But again, I'm not admitting anything, and Mega Man X6 may have been involved. That's all I can say.
Andrea.
So would you say that you are familiar with the process of
I am familiar. Yep.
You've tributed Mega Man 6? Okay.
X6, thank you very much.
Okay. That's fair. I don't blame you for that. It's a good game. So. But no, so back to my point. I'll just put it this way. I cannot believe a theory where there's a dude who is a pornography kingpin shutting down a $3-4 million revenue website just because some dude from 8chan like came on a picture of you or your wife and then sent it to you on a burner phone or something. Like,
yeah, it's a little ridiculous. Like, if this guy's got millions, if not billions of dollars, why the fuck is he gonna care about what fucking I found a picture of your wife, guys.
Don't hit me.
Putting tons of people out of jobs, putting streamers out of jobs that were relying on the website.
Oh no!
And not shutting down.
Yeah. Wait.
Shutting down the other website.
Hold on. I just want to take this moment. Reminder: Patreon.com/Sabrian531. Hit me up, please.
But yeah, that also goes into another point too, right? Like, you've got all this money. Why? Okay, so if you're afraid that somebody knows your information, right, and it's you've already posted online. If you have so much money, then if you're afraid of somebody coming and harassing you, wouldn't you have like a bodyguard or a detail? Or, I mean, I'm sure you're not driving your own car to work every day. That's a fact, right? So.
Yeah, it's a lot of.
They take the bus.
Yeah, they take the bus.
I mean, and they live really public lives. They've put themselves out there. They have to have known that at some point that they're going to come across harassment. And you would think that this would happen more often given the nature of their work and what they've done so far.
And another thing, too, I can't believe this theory. I know the doxed happened. I've seen the information. I see where it's came from. But, like, let's be honest here. The only reason why people are touting this is because it comes from the community that feels like that there's some sort of oppression going on and that they're out to prove a point. Oh, look, we got doxed because we are free speakers and we are the alt-right. We're so far right that it's, we're not allowed to say things. And we're persecuted and shit like that. Like,
please don't persecute me for my freedoms.
Yeah, so like I understand that there's a narrative, and it frames their narrative pretty well. So I honestly, and I think I engaged on Twitter the other day with a young lady that was in the contest as well on Stream.me, and she said, "Well, I had read the documents that you're saying that they are in trouble for, and they're just over some trademarking stuff. So I'm not, I'm not too sure that they actually understand what's going on, or they're being fed some fake information, or they're just not interested. Again, they just want to be so right that they don't give a shit to read the bold black print on the first page of the lawsuit. It's not. I don't think it's right. I don't think that their little theory is exactly what happened, and they've yet to produce any evidence. I mean, I'll definitely back down and apologize on thinking that. If they just said something, or if StreamMe came out and said, "Yeah, guys, sorry, we just shut down our website for this reason."
Well, could you believe them if they did?
The thing that
yeah, right.
The thing that's so interesting here is that Zach and I have had personal relationships with lots of the people on the staff. And I don't know how much you want to get into that, Zach, or if you want to at all.
No.
But, no? Okay.
I would prefer not to talk about my relationship with staff.
Yeah, suffice it to say, a lot of what this is pointing in the direction of pure and utter incompetence on every single regard. Would that about sum it up, I would say?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Like, just doing things without even remotely thinking about any repercussion whatsoever. Like, just doing it just to do it, you know? And having a lot of moving parts that's just unregulated entirely. It's a recipe for disaster. And, is this pretty much it, like, as far as the info dump is concerned?
Yeah, for the most part. Again,
yeah. Everything else would be speculation. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, it is all speculation aside from the evidence that we have. We think that Steemit shut down over legal reasons, but we can't prove that it is related. We just have more evidence saying yes, and more reasons to say that the other theories are wrong.
This is more plausible, and I bet if somebody actually wanted to spend a few dollars and go to the legal website, just pay for the documents. Again, I didn't want to dump like $10 into it just to research, something I don't have like any skin in or anything like that. But like, if the information's got to be there, guaranteed, it's got to be something about Discovery. Maybe they started going through more of the businesses that they owned. Again, the timing is just right. You've got things like, Steemit being founded in 2014, early 14 and late 13, and then you've got, all this technology, and it adds up with what the guy has said on his LinkedIn profile, one of the others. It's literally verbatim the technology that was stolen. And then you've got this long chain of Discovery where they first caught on to how much money they were making with this massive pornography empire. Mm-hmm. And then you finally get to something that I think that even that Ralph guy has said something along the lines of, it's just a vanity project. I mean, that's fine. But still, then you could definitely rope that into this argument saying maybe they shut down their vanity website because they didn't want to get caught. So, I don't know.
I mean, it's fun to speculate. I will say it is fun to speculate. And we will be doing a lot more speculation as time goes forward. And there's going to be like a lot more information. I'm sure we're going to be learning over the next few weeks, I'm guessing. Like, there's no way it's just going to be, that's it, There's going to be something that comes up at some point. So yeah, like, we'll definitely be keeping up with this. I'm excited, honestly. Like, I'm really excited. Like, I've disliked Steemit for a while, but I've always felt kind of beholden to them because they kind of, like, gave me money. So this is gonna be really fun. And like, the shit that they've kind of like done over the past, like, 2017 was a little interesting. Like, the staff actually tried, I felt like. But then, like, 2018, there's a lot of staff changes, and like, they just didn't give a fuck,
Mm-hmm.
So, fuck them all as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Get a real job?
I left, yeah. They didn't seem like they really moderated their stuff very well.
Not at all. And it sucks that it looks like we're probably never going to find out exactly what happened. They may come out and say something, but it seems to me like they're really relying on the rumors and things, and I believe that they're not above lying about what happened to cover it up if this is the case and it is illegal. The only way we'll find out...
above lying about it. They will lie till, like, the end of time.
Right. So the only way we'll ever find out about it is if it makes the news and they did, do something with sex trafficking or child pornography like Sage had said, or if they lose this court case, it might come out that the site had to be shut down or that they shut it down to protect themselves, maybe.
So I've been scrolling through the Twitter feed as just like a video feed for this, and there have been like maybe like very, very few tweets that get over like 5 likes.
90,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah, 90,000 Twitter followers.
This is a lot of
average. the average tweet gets like 5 likes. I mean, so that's funny.
Well, this is something that might have something to do with it. Back when we were working on the marathon, one of the things that StreamMe had done to help promote the marathon was they would come up with contests or things where they would say, go follow this Twitter, and it enters you in a contest to win, blah, blah, blah. And I remember we went from, like, we had, like, maybe 200, 300 followers to begin with, and overnight we woke up the next morning, there were 3,000. We don't know any of those people. But StreamMe was able to do that for us, so I think it's very likely that they were able to do that for themselves as well.
100%, 100%. And that's why it's just really funny. It's like their entire thing was just try hard, fake garbage.
Oh yeah. Like, again, now that you know the background of who they really are, because if you go research anything about their public lives, you don't have to do too much digging to find out some of their other business, dealings, but it's very superficial the way they put themselves out there. They put themselves out as I love snowboarding. I'm a snowboarding bro, and that's all that Ralph really saw whenever I was watching his stuff. If he would have dug just maybe a little bit deeper or done any sort of journalism or due diligence or any fact finding, he would have found out these dudes are like pornography kingpins, and they have this massive marketing setup where they spam bot people on Twitter. They've got malware, they put in spyware, all sorts of crap into people's computers. It's just, to me that's no good. That's scummy. So I mean, they're not who they really put on. I believe they're kind of they're up to something.
Yeah, no, I'm, like I said before, I'm excited and I can't wait to pontificate.
Seems like the whole brand is just like I don't know, just get their hands into as many jars as possible with like kind of like put up a front as a business, like a full-fledged like model, but it's like mostly just marketing and like maintaining the website.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Anything else? Like, this has been pretty fun. I'm gonna keep looking into this. So, if you want to do like come back next week and like if there's anything new, we can do like a recap.
Yeah, I'll do some reading. I may even actually just go ahead and get so curious I'll just buy the rest of those. those
yeah. If anyone wants to crowdfund that, we can do that as well.
Oh yeah, it wants me to pay $10 into their website for a 50-cent document, so I'll probably just bite the bullet and just dump money into their website.
Well, I think I'll do it for this.
Oh yeah.
Y'all want to say anything else?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Well, thanks for coming on. This has been very informative.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for just kind of talking for an hour, so I didn't have to do anything.
You're welcome.
In essence, fuck stream me.
Pretty much.
Yeah, fuck stream me.
All right, so y'all can stay or y'all can go, but part 2 of this evening's events is going to be, we are going to have a debate. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out.
Yeah, I'll listen, but I've got to head out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all.
See ya.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us on. See
Thanks
ya.
for having us. Bye.
Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hi. Hey, bud.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
So my name is Oxchar.
Do you have like a
Short
profile you want me to link?
Short for auxiliary character. I guess I'm that on Twitter or Gab or.
Could you send me a link?
I mean, it's just the same username everywhere, right?
Yeah. I guess I'll type it in myself. I just want to get something to to throw in there. Ox. What's your name again? Char. Oxchar. Ah, Twitter. Alright, so you do have a Twitter. So I believe we met on Gab. Is that true? Hello?
Sorry, I keep forgetting to use push to talk.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
Yeah, I saw your post on Gab.
Saw my post on Gab. Okay. And yeah, so I've been I used Gab before, and I kind of like forgot about it because it's like really fucking boring. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna
I like, what? I really like the Guns of Gab group and the 3D printing group.
3D printing.
Yeah, I haven't gotten my 3D printer yet, but I will soon. I really like the idea of 3D printing guns. I think that's really cool.
Ah, okay.
It's actually something I really like to. I would really like to contribute to because it's kind of a relatively new technology, and I think it's really important.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I believe, as a little primer, I think this thread, I just did like a basic info dump of a little bit of descriptors, and introduced myself, and so a lot of people on Gab have been
a lot of people were real butt mad.
Yeah, so I mean that's why I did this, because it was
I gotta say there's a lot of people who are not very smart on Gab.
Yeah, so Gab is a little dumb.
Looks pretty interesting.
So some people are, some people aren't. Like it's kind of a mixed bag, really.
Well, you're the first Gab representative on this podcast, and we're going to try to have more Gab representatives here. So, hopefully you accept the mantle of representative of Gab.
Yeah, hopefully I can. Hopefully I can leave a good impression. We'll say, yeah.
All right.
Because I'll say this: I'm not here to make enemies. I'm here to make friends, right? Like this, I would see this more as a discussion than a debate.
All right.
I'll speak a little bit about what I think. You can speak a little bit of what you think, and maybe we can learn a little bit from each other, so on and so forth.
An exchange of ideas, perhaps.
Yeah, this is a segment we've been trying to like weasel into the podcast. I'd like to call it the battlefield of ideas, and you're going to be the first opponent on the battlefield of ideas. So,
but I see a lot of that on YouTube where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna dunk on so and so, and it's like,
I mean, it doesn't have to dunk. I just like fancy wording. It's a good title. It's good search engine optimization. You know what I mean? Like, and then people are going to come in here, and it's just a discussion of ideas. It's just a free and open exchange of ideas between, what did you identify as? What would you say is your political affiliation? Not necessarily affiliation, but label. Like, what would you say?
So I would say I would be a classical liberal, which is kind of in opposition to like the American idea of a liberal, which is like a social liberal usually, or even socialist. I think of it very similarly to how, say, a British person would think of liberalism.
Where do you live? Like country?
I am from northern Minnesota.
Okay, so you're an American. All right.
Yeah. So I should mention this podcast is. As far as I'm aware, it's not being streamed, so...
It is being streamed, but we only have like 18 viewers.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can send you a link.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But the reason I bring that up is I missed, like, the earlier bit of the stream.
Yeah.
I haven't really watched your YouTube videos.
I wanted this to be like kind of like a blind thing, so...
Yeah,
I wanted to have like just an open exchange of ideas with no real biases.
Yeah, so the reason I bring that up is, like, I don't know you very well.
I have no idea who you are either. You wanted to debate, and here I am. So that's basically what this is. I'm Andrea, and I have a co-host. She's not really talking much. She's not much of a debater, but this is Brooke. Hello, Brooke.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. And, yeah, this is the Speed Dogs. This is our podcast.
The Speed DOS?
Dogs. Like woof?
Speed Dogs.
Yeah, we're dogs. Yes, doggy.
A woo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe something to start with is like background is like so like how did you get to where you are today?
How did I get to where I am today?
Like yeah, so like tell me a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about. Do you want my whole life story? Because I have an autobiography on Amazon for $19.99.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No. I am. You know, I grew up, and now I'm here. Essentially.
Right.
Yeah. Not a very good upbringing, but decent. I made it. I survived. And, that's about it. I don't really know what else to say unless you want specifics.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, like, I grew up in a very rural small town on the border to Canada called International Falls.
Well, Brooke is Canadian. Maybe you can have some perspective here.
Where?
Yeah, and
Where?
I spent a lot of time camping on the lake there, which is Rainy Lake, and there's actually...
Is that lake like on the border? So like the one side of the lake is Canada?
Yeah, that is directly on the border. Like the border runs right through the lake, and that's actually relevant to the story coming up later.
Okay.
And so yeah, I spent a lot of time camping on this lake, and the lake is also part of Voyageurs National Park. So I spent a lot of the time on this lake, which is on the border, which lies in a national park. So there was a large presence with the city and state police there, the border patrol, the game warden, and the park service.
Game warden.
So you can imagine, like, when my family is just trying to camp there, and you've got all of these different regulatory bodies, these different authorities, we'll say, that come in and they're like, your dog's leash is too long, it needs to be 6 foot. Or, you know, your tents are too close to the picnic table, it's too close within regulation. You know, like you can kind of imagine how I would grow up to be relatively anti-authoritarian, right?
Yes. If that's the point of that long story, then yes.
Yeah. So
I understand.
like, that very heavily influenced my perspective on politics, where like I see a lot of policies that are like, that's stupid, that's just going to be used by some jerk to go after somebody who's doing nothing wrong.
I say. So, I think that may be where we have a point of an agreement. I'm an anarcho-communist or an anarchist communist. I believe that we do not need a government, and that we should all work together. Essentially, is what that boils down to. I do not believe we get there overnight. I believe that we go through multiple societal and political changes in order to safely get to that position. And I do not like authority. I do not like power. I do not like hierarchy. And I do not like leadership in many, if any, real instances. So I would agree with that as far as that's concerned. Yeah. Do you want to get a specific topic?
So yeah, I was going to ask you some of that. So when you say you're an anarchist, you would say that you believe in no government at all, right?
No government as in a central governing body.
Okay, because like when I would think of anarchy, like it's the an, which is the prefix meaning not, and archy meaning government. So like no government at all is what I would tend to think of government, or what I would tend to think of anarchy, right?
Yeah. So it's just we govern ourselves. We don't need like a big, federal government to come in with their tanks and you're not allowed to ingest this substance because we said so bullshit, essentially. But we're not necessarily, as far as that's concerned, that's not necessarily something I consider too extremely feasible on a grand scale in the near time. Like, that's something we're, like, talking about, like, probably by the end of the century.
Okay. So,
in the meantime, in order to approach that kind of end goal, the philosophy would be to decentralize the power as much as possible, so that there isn't as much restriction, but like we keep the necessary evil, so to speak, in place, and then use them for furthering our own agenda. And the agenda would be to basically dismantle a lot of the establishments that uphold like the rich elite class, and kind of just socialize a lot of the overall wealth on the planet, and just bring it all to make everyone's lives much better. Because like if Jeff Bezos just simply vanished and gave all of his money to everyone on Earth, we'd be doing a lot more, like a lot better off, essentially. And that's the idea. And it's not necessarily the idea is to kill the billionaires, although I wouldn't mind. Some of them are pretty terrible people. But the idea is to essentially prevent a billionaire from even happening, because in order to even become a billionaire, it just requires essentially manipulating someone or screwing someone over really at all times, essentially.
I don't agree with that characterization.
Alright, this is going to get interesting. So why not?
So now we get into my ideas, which is that I would consider myself a liberal, where like I am anti-authoritarian, right? Like I am opposed to government overreach, but I would recognize that there is still a purpose for the state, which is to protect individual liberty. What else was that going to get into? Right, the idea that so to argue with your idea that someone can't become a billionaire without manipulating people, I don't agree with that. I would say that a free market economy is characterized by mutually beneficial exchanges.
Voluntary?
Yes.
Mutually beneficial voluntary exchanges? So,
yes.
Are we able to decide what mutually beneficial is?
Right. Yeah. It necessarily must be mutually beneficial, otherwise you wouldn't agree to it.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with the concept of like lesser of two evils?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, for example, maybe 2016's election. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, they're both kind of pretty bad, right?
I actually really like Donald Trump.
We'll get into that later. We'll get into that later. We'll get into that later, buddy.
To be fair, there's a few things that, like, I certainly disagree with, because obviously you're right. You're not going to ever get a perfect political candidate. You need to make some compromises. That being said, like, I actually voted for Donald Trump twice. As I voted for him in the primary election as well.
We'll get into that later. Okay, so lesser of two evils. What's another? So you've got to do
a mutual agreement between who exactly?
You're getting ahead of me.
Well, in terms of an economic exchange, right? You exchange something with somebody else for something that they have, for what you have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if both of the options, so you can exchange, say, my $1 for, an apple or a pear, but both of them are rotten, and both of them will give me food poisoning. Would you say that that's still a voluntary exchange?
Right. Then you just don't exchange your dollar for either of them.
But those are the only two options, and I need to eat.
Well, if those are the only two options, then your dollar isn't worth as much as maybe you think it is.
Right, okay, so essentially what I'm saying is there are a lot of situations where you don't have any more options. So you have either you have to work a minimum wage dead-end job, or you're homeless, and you don't want to be homeless. What do you do when you're homeless? That's rock bottom. You can't really get anywhere else from being homeless. At least it's very difficult. So you have to work a minimum wage, like, dead-end job, and you can't really afford, because say you have a kid, and that kid, say has some sort of medical specialty that they need, so you have to spend, like, extra time and care on them. So you don't have much money. So, like, in that situation, like, where you really just don't have another option, like, it's like, you can't just, like, oh, well, let's just try moving to another city. You don't have the money to move to another city. Oh, let's just try doing another job. You can't get another job, and, like, you can't really afford, like, taking any time off of work because you're living paycheck to paycheck. In that kind of situation, like, what exactly do you recommend?
So I would say that problem is characterized by the devaluation of labor.
Yeah,
which I would agree is a problem.
Okay.
So a little bit more background on myself is I work as a freelance programmer, right? Which is, it's a fairly decent demand job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in comparison, the unskilled labor is, at least at the moment, is less in demand, and as a result is undervalued. And I would actually say that minimum wage is a pretty bad problem for someone that's having trouble getting a job at minimum wage, because what it does is it makes it so that it's not economically viable to hire someone. Because if the market value of someone's labor is less than minimum wage, then it's not viable to hire them.
Okay. So would you say that the increase in CEO to average worker, like, salaries, like, I think it was 1 to 20, say 100 years ago, and now it's like 1 to 300. Would you say that that has anything to do with the devaluation of
I'm
labor.
sorry. Can you repeat that?
Have you heard of you're a classical liberal, right? So,
Yeah.
So you understand the economy, economics, right? The CEO to average worker. I'm going to get you an article here. A wage. In the 1950s, a typical CEO made 20 times the salary of his or her average worker. Last year, CEO paid an average an average of 361 times more than the average worker. So I'm going to drop this in the Discord chat. So, would you consider that if the value isn't necessarily being lowered, it's just the slice of the pie that the CEOs are taking is just significantly larger? So and this goes into with the inflation of currency. So for example, the minimum wage goes up, but it's not tied to inflation. So while all the CEOs are making all their bonuses and their bonds and stocks that are tied to growth and inflation, the minimum wage worker is oh yeah, I got a nickel raise, but in reality inflation's kind of making that nickel worth less than what it would be if it would have just been tied to inflation. So, do you think this is potentially something at play here?
I would disagree as to the cause of the problem and what exactly is going on here.
Okay.
Is what I would say is that CEOs are getting paid more than they used to be because the job of the CEO is quite a bit more difficult than in what it used to be. I mean, it's 70 hours a week. I mean, who's willing to work something like that? You see,
I am.
As much as they're paid, you still see CEOs quitting their jobs regularly due to work stress. It is a big job.
When you have a lot of money, you can just quit the job, though.
Right? It is a big job, though. They're not.
It's
quitting
a big job, yeah, but 361 times.
Yeah.
It's 361 times more difficult.
But what I would say heavily affects minimum wage workers significantly more is the market value of unskilled labor, which you can imagine that's subject to supply and demand, right?
Sure.
Is how much demand is there for unskilled work, and how many unskilled workers are there? Is as you have more people, the value of labor goes down, and you need to have jobs that follow population increases. And when you don't, what you see is the value of labor drop, and either you see salaries drop or you see unemployment because you can't pay minimum wage.
So if I can't hire 10 people, but I'm making 361 times what they're paying, would it not be more feasible to just take a pay cut and hire those people?
I mean, it could. It might not be. It might not be all that feasible, because if you decide as a company to do that, then you might lose your CEO. So it's not that simple. And something else you would see is that if it were that simple, you would think that you would see companies crop up that just simply outcompete the others by paying their CEO less. In a competitive market, that's what should happen. And that's what I would say is I would like to see the markets be more competitive, which in many cases they're not.
Would you say that the markets aren't competitive because the current CEOs and the current corporations that already exist have already monopolized a lot of the industries? Like Amazon, for example?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely a problem.
So how do you
there-
fix that problem?
I would say there needs to be some degree of market regulation, trust busting, that sort of thing.
Okay, but if you apply that concept more radically to just society as a whole, like, do you see that the elites monopolize a majority of the wealth?
I mean, yeah, I'm very critical of the government, but I'm also very critical of corporations. So yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so what exactly is it about a CEO that's so valuable? Do you think that there's not more people that'd be willing to do that job? So if you want to pay the CEO less and they leave, but wouldn't someone else fill that role? Do you think if everyone else on the board, but everyone else, like, it's a majority thing though at that point in that example?
Not as much as you would think. It is a very, very difficult job. Like, you're effectively on call 24/7. Many CEOs work 70 hours, 80 hours a week. You know, it's something that you have to structure the rest of your life around. There is no work-life balance as a CEO, right? It's something that, like, that is your life. There's no other. There's nothing else that you do at this time.
Let's propose we break up the work of the CEO into 2 or 3 different people and pay them all a combined lesser wage. How do you feel about that?
That's not a bad idea.
Now we're thinking outside the box, huh?
I mean, that's not.
So instead of paying one CEO 361 times the average worker, you pay, say, let's say 3 people 100 times, and that's overall 300 times more than the average worker. But you're saving off that 61 times, and they're still probably going to be pretty happy with their work or with their pay. Wouldn't you say? That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
But the thing is, though, is I don't think there should be regulations on how much you pay individual people. I think that's more to the discretion of the individual company, because there is a market advantage to spending money more efficiently. So, you know, inevitably, I would say it's going to come out that a company will spend their money efficiently.
why do you think that's going to come out?
Well, what would happen is you would see market competition between companies that spend their money differently, and the one that's more efficient is going to be able to outcompete other companies.
But
on
let's
prices.
define efficient.
Efficient for who?
Yeah.
Company or?
Efficient has multiple meanings depending on who you are. So I run an eBay store, but it's not like I'm not like a super big seller. So there's a lot of super big sellers on eBay that have like deals with mailing and shipping companies, so that they like pay like a net less in order like, you know, they can do free shipping, and I just can't recoup those losses. So like, would you say that being able to get to that point where you can compete, it requires an already such a large investment that it's not likely for the free market to really kind of kick in, because not everyone can achieve that barrier for entry that would create a true free market?
I would agree that there is something to be said for lowering the barrier to entry for new companies, yes, but there is also something to be said for economies of scale, where you can make things cheaper by making them in bulk, for instance.
Yeah, for sure.
But the other thing is, though, is you can outcompete other companies by targeting niche markets as well. Like that's usually where small companies thrive. Like you see that right now with a lot of the 3D printing industry is people will 3D print like just a few models of things that people only want a few of, because it's not economical to, you know, set up all the mold making whatnot to make large runs of plastic parts if there's only 2 or 3 people out there that want them. But that's totally viable for 3D printing, for instance.
Okay. But do you not see how, say, 3D printing lowers that barrier for entry as it decentralizes the, like, requirements? So you don't need to, like, you know, build a company to start doing this stuff. You can just buy a 3D printer and then start creating your own designs and all that kind of stuff going from there.
You can just buy a 3D printer. Or
yeah, exactly.
If you only need one 3D printed thing, then you can buy it from somebody that has a 3D printer. And if you have a 3D printer, that's great. You can start a company around that.
Yeah, so wouldn't you say it's better to keep the things that like make the true free market flourish as readily available as possible?
I'm not sure what you're getting at with that.
Like, say maybe schooling. How do you feel about free college in the United States?
I don't agree with it.
Why not?
Why not? Because it's going to lower the quality of college.
How?
Well, what happens if you subsidize schooling is that it becomes less competitive. Because if it's money that's coming from the state, right? It's coming from taxpayer money, then there's no opportunity cost of spending it on something else, right? Like you can only take, say, a grant and use it on school funding. You can't just say, instead of going to school, I'm going to go out and start a business with the money that would be spent on my education, right? So what that means is you don't have that market choice of taking that money and putting it into something else, which means you're just going to go to college anyways, right? Like it's not going to cost me anything to go to college if it's paid for, which means you're not going to be particularly selective in choosing your college. Like you're not going to look at a college and say, is this really worth $300,000, or can I go do something else instead? No, you're going to say, well, I'm just going to go to college. And like if it's something that's only worth 12 grand and the state is paying $300,000 for it, then it's still a good deal for you as a private citizen to take that. But what that means is that the school can lower their costs dramatically by cutting the quality of funding and or cutting the quality of their classes and whatnot, and they'll just get the same tuition regardless, because why wouldn't they? You'd never choose not to go to school, you know?
Perhaps in the system right now.
And meanwhile, that burden continues to be put on taxpayers regardless of the quality of schools.
How do you feel about public high school?
I mean, I kind of disagree with it for the same reasons.
So
like, I went to public high school. It was terrible.
So should we just hand everyone, like, when they graduate high school, just hand them like $300,000 and say you can choose to go to school or you can choose to start a business?
Well, I don't think so either. I mean,
Well, then how do you...
but
For people that are at the bottom of the ladders, how do they go
That would
up?
probably be a better option than telling someone, like paying for their school. I think that would be a better option.
Okay.
But I think there are better ways of solving that problem.
What is the upward mobility solution for you?
I would say loans. Right? Because it's... Have you heard of the term angel investor for businesses?
I've heard
Like,
the
that's
term, but
something-
could you describe what that is?
So that's something that's typically used in reference to startups. A lot in Silicon Valley. Like, you've seen a lot of Silicon Valley startups, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is there's these angel investors. It's also called venture capitalists,
Mm-hmm.
where they take their money and they invest it into these new up-and-coming projects as a loan, as it's a business loan, and then these companies, they take this money and they use it to improve their business, and they get it to something that can be profitable and can produce money, and then they pay back the loan.
So, what happens? So everyone should be capable of going through this process?
This seems like a lot of
Yeah,
risk.
I would definitely say the barrier to entry for obtaining a business loan or obtaining a personal loan, right? Because there's personal loans that serve the same purpose for like mortgages and car loans and whatnot. That's ultimately that's for the same purpose. Is you're taking this money from somebody else, you're investing it in yourself so that you can make money, and then you pay back the loan and you come out of it better off, because once you're at the end of the loan, then hey, you're making all sorts of money.
Okay. What happens if you can't pay it back?
Then that's what bankruptcy is for.
Okay.
And of course, that's also the risk you take on as an investor is you kind of have to just assume that someone's not going to default on their loan, but that's the risk you take in lending money, right? It's not you can't just invest money without any sort of risk. It's not just free money. It's there is some risk to it, and if that risk pays off, then you get the reward to it, which is having your money paid back.
So, as far as upward mobility is concerned, though,
As far as upward mobility is concerned, what that means is, as someone with not a penny to your name, you should be able to go and apply for some sort of loan, take the money from the loan and invest it into, invest it in yourself, really, so that you can make money to pay back the loan and come out of it better off than where you started.
okay. That's a very good answer. So, should this option be available to everyone?
Yes.
So you're saying like every homeless person should be able to apply for a loan and then like get themselves like a small apartment and then like clean themselves up and then like, you know, like get a job and then like start contributing to society and all that kind of stuff? You think that would overall be, and like an investment in the people would overall be a better place to spend that money? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And the other great thing about that is the whole system that I've described takes place in the private sector, which means that the entire system can be competitive. Right? So you get the benefits of a free market economy by using that.
what exactly are the benefits?
Well, the benefits are primarily efficiency and reduction of waste.
Okay.
Right. So for example, like a lot of government bureaucracy still uses paperwork for a lot of their information processing, where it's cheaper to go with computers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for the government, there's no incentive for them to switch to computers because they're going to get the taxes regardless, right? Like, you can't just say, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to start paying my," you still have to pay your taxes, right? But with the business, someone else, some other business could spring up that's using computers, and they're gonna compete you. So you better start using computers, right?
Would you say that that's just a flaw in how the government works? Like, shouldn't we just crack down on that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would agree. Yeah, like that is a benefit of democracy, is we can push for them to get that sort of thing going. Can you hold on for a sec? My dog is barking. I gotta go let her out. Yeah, just give me a minute. Sorry for interrupting your podcast.
No worries. How's this? How you feeling about this? Is this good?
Yeah.
I got that point of agreement. Wait till I wrap this around. It's gonna be good. Watch it. It's gonna be good. I just now read this. He has capitalism enthusiast in his Twitter bio. I just read that for the first time. Capitalism enthusiast.
Yeah. All right, I'm back.
Oh, hey, you heard that? Hey, hi.
Yep. Yeah. I am a capitalism enthusiast. Yes.
Wow.
Because I work as a freelance programmer, so I write code and sell that to people.
So why does that make you support capitalism?
I mean, that's the fundamental use of capitalism, is acting as a free market actor, is selling work. I mean, if I lived under some other system like socialism or communism or fascism or what have you, other systems of economics don't necessarily give you the freedom to sell your own labor or benefit from your own work in such a way.
Are you sure about that? Because if okay, just hypothetically, if we were to have a lot of elections that would reduce all bureaucratic garbage, so there wouldn't be any overspending or wasted efficiency. We had several regulation agencies dedicated specifically to finding all of those cracks, and then all of the people in those agencies are also the people, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
would you not say that having institutionalized ways to go through this kind of process on a location by location basis would be effective?
I would say that generally the more that you put under the purview of the government, generally it becomes more inefficient.
Why?
Why? Because it's less competitive, and you're relying on the democratic process to change it, which is much slower than the invisible hand of the free market.
Okay.
Politics is a very, very slow process.
Politics is extremely slow, but does it have to be?
I mean, generally, yeah.
Why do you say so? Is it because it always has been?
No, I would say because trying to find a consensus between so many people is very difficult using just voting. And particularly without disregarding certain people. It's a very difficult process.
Okay. So...
And oftentimes in democracy, you find that people vote against their own interests because something else takes a higher priority in what they're voting for. Like you mentioned that voting for the lesser of two evils.
Yes.
In a free market, that's not always the case. There's many choices, or you can go and start your own, or like
now the problem
you see companies crop up and die. And
the problem is it's not a free market if not everyone is playing by the same rules. Is the problem. So my solution temporarily would be to institutionalize a way to even the playing field and lower the barrier for entry so that anyone could participate in the aforementioned free market. Because there is no problem with a free market as long as it is truly free. And in order to approach a truly free and equal playing field, I don't think capitalism is going to cut it. Because truly,
like I think what I've described with the whole loan system is entirely what you would see in capitalism, and solves the problem rather well.
But how do you if that were the case, and if investing in the people were really like as efficient as you claim, why aren't people doing that? If the free market really does put out the most efficient product, why are homeless people still in existence?
I suppose I would say maybe because they're uneducated with how the system works. You know, in order to take out a loan, you need to know how to take out a loan. So
it's their fault?
Well, I mean, can you really fault someone for not knowing something?
So would you say that we should make it so that everyone could know that, and everyone should be able to have access to the same playing field?
I think we should maybe make it a little bit more publicized, more accessible, maybe.
So, do you think if you're homeless, you can walk into a bank and get, say, a $20,000 loan to start up a business?
At the moment, no.
How would you propose a solution to that?
Well, how the current process works is, as a homeless person, you would probably need to build your credit, right? Because that's how loans primarily work. Is there, and that's how how the banks would deal out loans. Is that's how they manage their risk. Is they have an idea of what your credit is, which is it's a heuristic to determine what you are able to pay off. So as a homeless person, it would be more of a process of trying to obtain some small loan and then being able to pay that off and then use that as a stepping stone to get further, bigger loans.
Okay. Do you not see how unreasonable that is?
I don't think it's unreasonable.
So, Okay, so a homeless person can go into any bank and ask for $100 and say, "I'll pay this back."
Yeah, I mean that's basically what a credit card is.
So when you apply for a credit card, you can just get approved instantly, and that's that?
Not always, but it's very often. I mean, like, have you ever been like shopping and you're like, I'm going to buy groceries, and then at the grocery store they're like, would you like to apply for the you know? Like they're like they're reaching so far to try and get you to apply for some of these credit cards.
Andrew, wouldn't you say the reason that they were reaching out to do this is to just profit off of people?
Yeah,
Yeah,
profit.
I mean, credit cards, it is a profitable business. I mean, that's the whole thing with loans is there's interest is, you know, from taking on that risk, there is a certain degree of reward to it.
Would you say that
And
it's just like
that's
a
what I would
cynical
say.
kind of
Like,
motive?
and that's just the thing, is it is profitable to help people like that.
So if it is profitable, why aren't we doing it?
We are.
Interesting.
Like, it is commonly happening.
Okay. So, healthcare in America, do you support Medicare for all?
Well, the problem with, I would say there's very similar problems with that as what I've described with education, right? Is when it's paid for by the state, you're not necessarily going to be looking at the costs of it. You know, like they could charge you $3,000 a pill and you're still going to accept it because it's paid for by the state, or it's paid for by, you know, there's actually similar problems with insurance, which is also entirely privatized as well. But the thing about that is it raises your premiums for insurance, and then you know, insurance becomes competitive, and it's like, well, which one am I going to go with? The one that actually pays for the $3,000 pill, or the one that doesn't? And what ends up happening is you go for the one that doesn't, and then that $3,000 pill isn't covered.
Yeah. So instead of doing all that, you just get the pill, and it's not $3,000. It's like
No, it is still $3,000.
No.
It's not.
No.
It's not free. It's paid for by the state.
Do you think a lot of the medications are really the prices that they go for? In raw value?
I think a lot of it is priced predatorily because there is some degree of state payment and some degree of the insurance industry isn't as competitive as maybe it could be. Particularly because of like selling across state lines and whatnot.
Okay. The reason I ask about Medicare, so you got your business up and running, you stopped being homeless, right? You finally got your apartment, you got a stable job. Oops, cancer. What are you gonna do, right? It's just you couldn't help yourself. So, did you know that 42% of people diagnosed with cancer go bankrupt in the first 2 years? What kind of situation in a free market? Like, how do you maintain that? Is that person, it's just natural causes, they just die? Like,
yeah, it's really awful that diseases like that still exist, and it's so expensive to treat, right?
so we shouldn't treat them?
Well, if they can afford it.
Okay. So
I mean, it's
so like poor people don't deserve to so if a poor person gets cancer, they're not as valuable.
Well, I would say it's more along the lines of it. If it's that expensive, then do we have the resources to be able to treat poor people?
Why wouldn't we?
Why wouldn't? Well, why is it so expensive?
Okay, okay. Let's just take a moment here to analyze, say, France. How do they do it in France?
I'm not familiar with how France does things.
Okay, how about Scotland?
Wait a minute, France. Isn't France having like a shit ton of riots over taxes at the moment?
Okay, how about Canada?
I think I've heard from Canada that you need to like wait for months and months for
Months for
treatment.
what?
Like if you try and schedule with the doctor, like a ton of time because their system is really heavily overburdened.
No, you can get in pretty quickly.
This person lives in Canada.
Like a lot of, from what I've heard, a lot of Canadians actually come to the U.S. for treatment.
Isn't it just if you need the care, you get the care? And so, like, a lot of people, when they do things that they don't need, but they just want it, they go to America? Isn't that how it works?
I've never heard of anyone going to
You
America.
would think so,
for healthcare.
but if you set it up so that it's if you set it up so that it's like if you need the care, then you can just get the care, then a lot of people are going to go into it, and then the systems aren't as the systems get overwhelmed.
Do you think that if more people could live, and more people could be educated, and more people could become doctors, that maybe that wouldn't be as much of an issue?
Right, but then it would also be cheaper.
Okay.
Because as you increase supply, then the cost goes down.
Sure. So you can look at everything with the lens of, like, cheaper
And
better.
that's the great thing about it too, right? That the value of healthcare is so high. Like, it's actually a really good idea to go into that field because it's so heavily overpriced at the moment. And what the net effect of that is that the supply of healthcare will go up, which means the costs will go down as people rush in to fill that void.
Okay. Okay. I don't really know what that means. So, should we or should we not have more doctors?
Yeah. I would thoroughly encourage people to become doctors. It's
So, what if people
really
want to
good.
become doctors but can't?
But can't, then don't become a doctor. Like if there is something preventing you from becoming a doctor, then don't.
They
become a
just
doctor.
can't.
If
Like,
you can choose to become a doctor, it's not a bad idea because
So-
it makes
the crux of our argument and the crux of our disagreement is the if you can choose and if you're able, which I think is what distinguishes a classical liberal, which I don't really know what the difference is between a liberal and a classical liberal. They're both identical as far as I'm concerned.
right. So the distinction I would make is I would call myself a classical liberal to distinguish from a social liberal.
So you don't like gay people?
No. A social liberal is someone who is in favor of liberal principles, but is also in favor of social programs. Whereas I believe that a lot of the problems that social programs seek to solve can be solved through free market solutions.
Okay. So if they can, then why aren't they?
I mean, it takes a certain amount of time, but they are. I mean, we live in one of the best societies that has ever existed. I mean, it's if you I would say that if you screw with the system, things aren't going to work as well.
So would you say that you just have inherent faith in the system that's kind of unfounded and that you can't explain?
No, because like I've seen it working. Right? Like it like you can, it is demonstrable how the system works, and like I just explained a lot of it to you. There is a lot more to explain. Like it's a very, very complicated system. It's not something that's so it's not very obvious how a lot of things work in the market, but something I would say is it's excellent that it's decentralized, in that a lot of the decisions that are made in the free market are made by individual actors rather than by a top-down authoritarian controller.
So do you automatically associate the government with top-down authoritative control then? Is that a disagreement that we have?
Generally, yes.
So do you not see how the government could be structured in a way that it's not top-down authoritative controlment? Because the brands of communistic ideals that a lot, and I would say a majority of the most further leftist people believe that we don't want a central governing body. We don't really want, like I said, I'm an anarcho-communist, so I want the people in areas to govern themselves efficiently and effectively. So in order to do that, you don't need to have a, person in a suit in Washington, D.C., like, pushing a stamp on something. Like, you can have, like, a social program in the sense that, like, say there is some sort of federal budget that we have taxes, we might as well use them to funnel the money, instead of, say, into the military, or instead of, say, in tax cuts for the rich, we funnel that money into, like, a social program so that everyone who's homeless understands, like, we have people that, like, will just walk out at night and, like, hand flyers to homeless people, or, like, bring them to, like, a classroom and, like, teach them things and, like, get them started, that kind of stuff. Would you not say that that social outreach is something that we can try to get in both in the private sector and in the public sector via, like, political outreach and private outreach?
So there's a few things there that I would take note of, which the first is when you say the government could be decentralized by having individual areas govern themselves. I would still call that a centralized government, but only for those individual areas. So, like,
it could work that way.
Yeah, like that would still be a centralized government. It's not. It's centralized. The
thing there would be like the freedom of opportunity and choice from community to community.
Whereas like capitalist actors are at the individual level. Like you and I make decisions that affect the economy by how you choose to spend your money, right? Well, the other thing I was going to get at is, what was the next one? Man, I need to start taking notes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Fuck. What was the next one?
Yeah, I don't know. Private. Couldn't you like do and advocate for the same things both privately and publicly? Shouldn't you like try to promote social programs both in the public sector and politics, and then also in the private sector try to get involved in being the people at the forefront of those social outreach kind of things? Wouldn't doing both be kind of like...
I would prefer to have as little done in the private sector as possible. Or as little done in the public sector as possible, excuse me.
But okay, so the public sector can fund the private sector, can they not?
To an extent, yes. Like, have you heard of private military contractors, for instance?
I have, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was something I was going to get into. Like, I'm not actually opposed to the military. Like,
Say that again. Your mic trailed off a bit.
I do think that having a strong military is very, very important.
Okay, so, but let's say, for example, instead of spending, let's just cut $1 billion from the military of like, what's the budget, like 700 something billion, right? Let's just cut $1 billion, right? Just cut that billion off, and then give that like into like fund like say a community center in every town. And by that, I mean, like, spend, say, just rent a space. It's like a 6-month program. You could probably rent a space for, like, a few $1,000s. And then, like, people can, like, go there to, like, volunteer their effort. Go there to, like, you know?
I don't agree with the idea of cutting military funding.
So you don't think we should cut the military at all?
What I would agree with maybe is moving more of the military into the private sector using private military contractors, which is what we've been seeing over the last couple of decades or so. Is there have been quite a bit more private military contractors. Takes the current budget and makes it more efficient. But I would say something we have been seeing is foreign powers like Russia and China. They have been significantly building their military. Particularly lately, China's really been focusing on their naval efforts. They've really been building their navy. So yeah, I would say it's definitely very important to keep our military as strong, or even building it stronger than it currently is.
How do you feel about the F-35 jet that never existed?
Oh yeah. I would say that is a clear example of the government fucking up something that wouldn't get screwed up as bad as.
So the government fucked that up?
Yes.
Would you not say that the military-industrial complex, the fusion of corporation and government, created that? Would you not say that?
What happened? So, I actually have a really interesting video that kind of encapsulates the whole situation. It's from a movie called Pentagon Wars, and it was about the Bradley personnel carrier. I could look that up if you want, but it's
you can link that to me later if you wish.
Kind of awkward to pull up in the middle of a podcast, right?
Yeah, we can do that for a part 2. But
it's really terrible. It's really a tragedy what happened. It's designed by committee is what it is. Is you get a private contractor that comes in and they say, hey, we can build this thing that like the military actually needs, because we've talked to like the military people, and we've talked to people on the ground, and we know what they actually want, so here you go, we'll make this for you. And then the government goes, the people at the top go, well, we need this, and this, and can you make it do all of those things? And it's like, no, we can't, but you're going to pay us, so we're going to make it. We're going to try to make something that fulfills all of those roles. And
yeah, the government
fails at all.
The government is bad.
They kind of just do it anyways.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve the problem. It fulfills the contract, right? Whereas what you would see is if it was like private military contractors that hired soldiers to go out there, right? Like, have you heard of privateers?
No.
That they were, I forget which. I think that was during the Revolutionary War? But what happened was there were private actors that owned warships that the government would pay to go be pirates against the people we were at war with.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
A business militia actor, basically. But the thing about that is then you don't really get the design by committee, is you have the people on the ground that know what they want. They go to the other business and they ask for exactly what they want, because if they don't, then they're not going to be able to do their job.
So why can't so the government can pay people to do things then militarily?
Yeah. Yes.
But not when it comes to school.
That's what I would say.
But not when it comes to school or healthcare?
I don't think that's the best way to solve the problem.
Why? What's the difference?
I think it's better to do it in the private sector.
Why?
Why? Because it makes it cheaper.
Why?
Why?
If it were
Because you
cheaper...
have competition.
Okay, but cheaper would... It doesn't get cheaper than free, let's be honest. It doesn't get cheaper than free.
It's not free. It's paid for by the state. It's paid for by the taxpayer.
So what you're saying is you'd rather have the F-35 sitting in a garbage garage hangar than everyone in the country having healthcare?
That's a good trap there. That's a good trap there.
No, yeah, I'm good at this.
I would prefer military spending. I don't think the F-35 was an efficient use of military
So
spending.
you would prefer...
I would prefer military spending be spent more efficiently on military use.
So, okay. So, would you concede that, say, the current military budget is exacerbated to the point where they can't spend it all efficiently, and thus end up doing these garbage projects just for the sake of contracting jobs? And instead it's better to, say, maybe drop $100 billion from the budget, but then do an infrastructure overhaul with that $100 billion so that everything is a more efficient system, so that the dollar to value is much more efficient, so that you're getting more for your dollar than you would have previously. And then once you have that system, you can then reinvest further, like year after, and say spend like whatever amount of money doing that in other industries. Would that not be something?
I would say there are much better military applications that they could have spent the money on other than the F-35. Right? Like they could take the current budget and use it better than they are. I don't think it's a good idea to cut the budget to spend it on something else.
So you think that the budget should just increase abstractly and haphazardly, and that the military should just ramp up something in order to keep up with the numbers? You don't think that, like you said, like, you know, they just give you a number and they tell you what to do with it. So you don't think that maybe instead of just giving more and more money at them when they don't know what the fuck they're doing, obviously, what they built that F-35, so obviously they don't know what they're doing and they don't need all that money? So don't you think it's just a little ridiculous giving them even more?
I don't like seeing the design by committee, right? Like, I don't like seeing them wasted on things like the F-35, right? However, China and Russia are definitely building their military, and we definitely do need to keep up with.
Oh, I agree. It's just the ways that we spend the money are inefficient, and we should spend them more efficiently. So, would you not say that like public lobbying for an infrastructure efficiency overhaul in the military for the United States would be something to support?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
So, would you not like say take that same concept and just apply it across the board?
I mean, yeah, generally.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there are a lot of public sector bureaucracies and infrastructure that are much less efficient than they could be. And if we, streamline that a bit more, then yeah, we could get a lot better bang for our current budget. Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
All right, cool. I think I'd like to start winding down here. This is getting a little late. I think we agree on most things. I think the main encompassing difference here is that you think the private sector will solve it, whereas I think the public sector could solve it, but I think we have different definitions on what the public sector is. I aim to improve dramatically the public sector and how it works, whereas it seems that you're kind of jumping ship and you just don't want to deal with it at all.
I mean, I would like to improve the public sector, right? And like I would agree. I guess there definitely is some legitimacy to the public sector, right? Like I'm not an ANCAP, right? I'm not an anarcho-capitalist. I do believe there is necessity to the state to protect individual liberty. So like there is a necessity to the state. There is a necessity to the public sector, and by extension, there is a necessity to make the public sector efficient. But where I think we disagree is, do we want more of our our society's infrastructure to exist in the private sector, or do we want it to more exist in the public sector? I would say I believe it would be more efficient, more cost efficient, and with better decision making in general if it were handled in the private sector than if it were handled in the public sector.
Okay. Either way, you can understand that there is a significant current systemic problem with how things are currently being handled? To an extent. I think things are generally handled fairly well, with some exceptions of things being handled poorly, which I do believe we should work on. Yeah. Okay. I understand. Do you have anything else you'd like to discuss as far as what we talked over tonight? Or would you like any sort of conclusionary statement?
Anything else I would like to discuss? Oh, yes. I have a big burning question for you.
Okay.
Who is your favorite Tuhu character?
It's called Toho, not Tuho.
Okay, Toho, yes. Sorry, I mispronounce it a lot. Sometimes I say Tuhu, sometimes I say Toho. I know it's actually Toho, but like I see it spelled like.
Yeah. The only one I can think of is Cerno. Is that it? Did I win? That's one, right?
Oops, I hit F5 instead of F4. F4 is my hotkey.
Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, I see it spelled like that.
Sword Girl.
I don't play that. I'm sorry. I'm not an animator.
You don't do Toho?
No, I'm sorry.
Does your co-host have a favorite Toho character?
Yomu.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Which one is Yomu?
The one with the sword and the ghosts and stuff.
The samurai ghost girl.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say mine is probably Momiji. Woo.
Is that the dog?
Yes.
Stop.
Okay, that's my favorite then. That's my favorite. If there's a dog, then that's my favorite. I don't know that though, so I'm not familiar with the content or subject material. That was a trick question.
There's picture.
Very nice photograph.
Oh no, we never even got into guns.
I think we could probably schedule a whole nother conversation at this point.
Can I ask about guns? Are you in favor or opposed to guns?
I think we need a significant gun reform. However, I am in favor of guns.
It'd be cool if guns didn't exist. but
It's
they
more
do.
of a thing of efficiency. Yeah, like I don't like guns. We need to study non-lethal modes of incapacitation, for sure. But I mean, as things currently stand,
Yeah, I see it as more of a human rights problem, where it's like, you know, I want to own a machine gun. Yeah. Like I think everybody should have access to firearms.
machine
I think
guns.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Do you believe in open carry?
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to talk about this later because I'm a little
Yeah,
tired.
we'll have to talk about this later.
Okay.
Yeah, we can schedule a later discussion for just firearms, maybe.
Sure.
I have a lot to say about firearms.
Sure. We can totally do that.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah. But for now, I think this will probably wrap us up. A little bit longer than I anticipated, but that's okay. Hello, dog.
All right. Yeah, I had fun. Did you have fun?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I feel like
I
we have a
think it
lot of
was,
learning to do.
I think it was rather productive.
Good representation of Gab. You did a good job.
Yay, I did good.
Yeah.
Gab on.
You have anything else to say? Do you have anything you want to advertise?
Anything I want to advertise? Not particularly. Subscribe to PewDiePie.
All right, we're cutting you.
All right. I'll see you.